Today, we're going to be breaking down Airbnb's first pitch deck. I'm kind of excited for this. This is a billion-dollar company, so obviously we all know that it ended well, but did they pitch well at the beginning? I'm Josh. This is Jason. We're here for CodeLaunch. We're looking at slide 1, Air, Bed, and Breakfast.
Air, Bed, and Breakfast. I really didn't know there was a longer version of the brand name, did you?
Airbnb.
I knew what a bed and breakfast was, and I guess I knew, but I didn't know there was Air, Bed, and Breakfast.
As I remember correctly, Airbnb started because they were renting out air mattresses at a conference in San Francisco. So they immediately went ambitious here. They were like, forget air mattresses. This is now a bed and breakfast. Definitely something's been lost in translation because I've never had a breakfast at an Airbnb, and I've probably stayed in hundreds of them. So
I do like the slogan, book rooms with locals rather than hotels.
I like that they're saying...
That's simple.
And you got to think back, right? There's no such thing as Airbnb when this deck came out. Hotels is the only frame of reference that we have.
That's it.
So when they say locals,
Hostels.
they're saying this is a small business. But
What about Air, Bed, and Hostel?
Hostel? I don't think the horror movie had come out either, so it's probably still on brand. Let's check out slide 2. The problem. Price is an important concern for customers. Yeah, we're all cheap. I don't think that's changed in 15 years. Hotels leave you disconnected from the city and its culture. Okay, I don't know if yeah. No easy way exists to book a room with a local or become host. They nailed that.
That is no longer correct. Thank you, Airbnb.
But we have to go back in time to when this deck was created.
Yeah.
And at the time, yeah, that's fair. There wasn't a way to just become a hotel owner in your apartment.
Right.
They really kind of invented the category.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, think about
Hotelier.
Where
Hotelier?
is Hotelier?
Hotelier.
Where is the Uber and Lyft to Airbnb? Is there even a Diet Coke or a Pepsi version of Airbnb?
Yes. Yes, there is.
What is that?
VRBO.
Isn't that for more vacations and extended stays? I don't think it's used in the same analogous use case. I think that Airbnb...
I think it's pretty close to apples, but maybe some variants for sure. I mean, there's going to be some variants.
Jump in the comment section. What is your option
what's
that
your difference?
you use when you're not using Airbnb? Okay.
My little bro calls it Verbo. He's like, let's get a Verbo.
Okay.
And I'm like, do you mean Airbnb? And he goes, yeah.
I feel like Verbo is more for like long-term stays and vacation planning. But okay. A web platform where users can rent out their space to host travelers to save money, make money, share culture. I think Airbnb lost this idea, but I love the idea that you're kind of getting the local version of the city. I think that they had that initially, and in share culture.
They were really leaning in on the culture aspect, which has never been a reason why I got an Airbnb.
Yeah. But also, we're so many iterations later. I think that is appealing, because if you're talking about a hotel versus just staying in someone's home, how do you make up, and this is a perfect example in this pitch, how do you make up for the lack of professionalism? How do you make up for the lack of cleaning staff? How do you make up for the lack of amenities? Well, you say, oh, it's local, it's culture, it's authentic.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny because I think all of our founders can learn that no matter what you think about why this is valuable, you could be completely wrong, that the customers don't care about a third of why you think it's valuable.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's saving money.
Yep.
It's also easier and quicker because the hotel booking space is so clunky with these middle guys, and you usually end up texting the owner or someone managing the property. The seller gets to make some money, and a lot of people invest in properties just to have Airbnbs now. But the reason why I do it is because I like staying in a house and has a kitchen.
I'll give you another one too. As a comedian, I travel a lot. I use a lot of hotels, and I also use a lot of Airbnbs. Parking. Sometimes the difference between staying downtown, like a hotel, will be like 30, 40, 50 bucks a night for parking. It's like,
yeah, they don't tell you that when you're booking.
I'd rather get a nice apartment, and then I can just Uber. Look, I'm using Startup on Startup. I can just Uber to where I need to go.
There you go.
All right, Couchsurfing, 660,000. Okay, so I don't know how they got this. So this is a great example, right, of a deck. How many decks do we see at CodeLaunch every year? Hundreds and hundreds of decks, and they cite these numbers, right? And you have to immediately go when you're reading the pitch deck. Do I believe this number? Where did this number come from? I see a red flag. Very round.
Well, I see fine print trying to say where it's coming from, but it's so small, it's almost like insidiously small.
Yeah. And then one of those is Craigslist.com. So 50,000 temporary housing listings per week in the US. Okay. So I could see how they could scrape that. That makes sense to me. That's a believable number. I guess Couchsurfing.com was a thing. I've never heard of it.
Wow. They really messed it. Oh, also, I see a misspelling. They left the R off surfing.
Wow.
Airbnb, come on.
No, they might have been Couchsurfing.com. Maybe it's a cheaper domain.
Do you think that like Couchsurfing?
No, they left it off. They had a typo.
That looks like it's got to be a typo.
That's really funny. So 660,000 total users. So this is interesting. To prove market validation for what Airbnb wanted to do, they found another business which was similar but not the same, right? Because staying on someone's couch is different than renting a room, and they use that to compare the two. This is incredibly important when you're trying to create a new category. There's not going to be something that's directly analogous. You're not going to find something that is exactly one-to-one what you have. So it's about putting approximations together until it kind of looks the same.
Oh, the old market size slide. Trips booked, 2 billion. Oh, I can read this a little better. Source, Travel Industry Association of America, World Tourism Organization. They seem trustworthy.
So looking at this market size slide, we don't know exactly what point this is in history, but we do see that at this point, Airbnb is either forecasting or showing that their traffic is about a sixth the size of budget and online. You got to think this is like Priceline.com or other budget hotels. But worldwide, we're still seeing 2 billion plus bookings. So if I was an investor looking at this and I saw 84 million trips booked, first off, we've crossed past validation. 84 million trips booked is incredible. The 2 billion plus is exciting because it goes, how much of this can we disrupt?
I think this is a forecast of what they think they can capture.
Okay. Well, they did.
Based on the primitive look of this deck, this has to be at the very beginning.
I think they did.
And I think they did.
They did capture it. I think they probably got a little bigger.
Even with their Comic Sans font.
They got so big that cities are banning them. Okay, what do we got?
Yeah.
We got a product demo.
Search by city, review listings, and book it.
I like it.
These look like great mock-ups. Maybe this was the primitive version.
I like this because if I've never used it before, it's showing me the entire user journey. I'm looking for the city. I have options. I'm booking it. Could there be more slides? Sure. But for a pitch deck, I think that this articulates what the user journey is going to be. This is a great job.
Yeah. I also like how it's not very noisy. They got the noise level right so far. A lot of the pitch decks I see are TMI on the screen all at once.
Yep. Too many words. If you have hundreds and hundreds of words, it's going to be hard for somebody to retain that information. There's an old phrase, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. And I think this perfectly captures it. You're getting the information across. Another tip for you, maybe you're applying for Y Combinator, maybe you're applying for 500 startups, maybe you're applying for CodeLaunch. Investors and accelerators look at hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of decks. So if you have hundreds and hundreds of words when you could use 5 or 6, you're putting that much more effort and work on the people that are sifting through the decks. You're making it harder to stand out. Be clear, be concise, nail what you're doing.
Yeah, I think I'm like most folks. I'm opening one deck, forming an impression, taking some notes, closing it, and opening another one right away.
Yep.
So I'm seeing a lot at once, and you want to stand out in that sea.
Business model. We take a 10% commission on each transaction. I think they increased that. I think it's higher now. Pretty sure it's up to like 20. We've got $84 million worth of trips with Airbnb. That's a decent chunk of the market. We've got a $25 average fee.
15% of available market on their fine print.
I think this slide is less clear than the last slide, right? Because they're showing like a
At least
share.
we have a date there. Projected revenue by 2011. So this is probably 2009.
Yeah.
Or even 8.
I like that they're showing what their average fee is. That's an easy to understand number, $80 a night at 3 nights. That makes sense. Their revenue, it feels like we made a giant jump. They skipped a lot of steps to show us $2.1 billion in revenue. It's a classic slide, but I really like a forecast that's tied to year 1, this many customers, this much revenue per customer, year 2, year 3. Sometimes you can only do, 6 months out or 12 months out, but just throwing $2.1 billion in revenue up there, if I didn't know this was Airbnb, I'd be rolling my eyes. How hard would you be rolling your eyes if you saw no justification, just $2.1 billion?
Well, yes. I mean, especially to our no product exists pitch deck founders, that group is harder to, trust a slide like this, but we don't know what their situation was exactly. Looks like they had like a primitive product at this point.
Yep.
Adoption strategy. How are we going to get people to adopt? I love this because you know what? This is left out of a lot of decks that I see.
Yep.
They're like, the founder looks like they're thinking, it's so obvious everybody wants this, right? Well, yeah, but you still have to get people to start using it.
Yep.
Let's talk about what they did.
Well, I love the thing that you see here with Craigslist where they created dual posting. And so you see this a lot with Zillow and a lot of real estate firms. Also, you see this a lot with job listings. You go look for a job listing and you're looking on like Google Jobs, and then to click on it, you have to go to another website. And then to click on that, you have to go to another website. So dual posting and double posting is a way to increase traffic. It's funny because, Craigslist at some point might have been considered a competitor to what Airbnb was doing.
It was like the antiquated way to do it.
But they were able to kind of like a remora that lives on the shark, right?
That is not my expertise.
There's a little
seafaring anatomy.
There's a thing that eats like dirt that lives on a
the little guy that
shark. Little guy that lives with the
Mm-hmm.
shark. And Airbnb became that until they became the shark, and then they ate Craigslist. And
yeah, Craigslist like heyday was what, 2002 to 2010, and it's pretty much. Is it even still around, used for anything?
at a point, most of their revenue was adult services, and that got
Come
banned.
get the dirt off my lawn and take it to your house. Is now what it's good
Yes,
for.
I think Craigslist is good for like buying junker cars still.
Cars maybe. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, we got events as well. Was the strategy that they had?
This is where they're going to activate people at events. They're going to be at Oktoberfest, which has 6 million people. CeBIT, which is a conference that may still be around.
Yeah.
Summerfest, I'm not sure what that is. Euro Cup, that sounds cool and far away. Mardi Gras, 800,000 people.
And it makes a lot of sense. Like when you go to conferences, especially like we go to a lot of tech conferences, when you go to festivals, that's going to be a prime opportunity to use Airbnb. The aggregators are the final one they have here, like GoLoco, Kayak, Orbitz.
Partnerships.
Under partnerships. It's interesting when you think of these sites like Orbitz, GoLoco, Kayak. They probably exclusively partnered with hotels initially, and Airbnb was able to slide in there as the apples and oranges comparison, and it's pretty compelling for people that are price conscious. Competition. Oh, hey, look. Speaking of that, this is funny. Let's look at this. Look at this.
Look, Couchsurfing does have an R. Confirmed.
Okay, R for that, but also look at this. They have partnerships, Orbitz, and then they have competitors, Orbitz.
Orbitz, yeah.
That's savage. That's how you build $1 billion startup. You literally shake hands.
Hey, there's hostels.com. I told you hostels was a thing.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's pretty. But this is
Affordable.
incredible. Like the lesson here is they're able to find a competitor and figure out a way to create a perceived mutually beneficial. Probably wasn't mutually beneficial. It was probably parasitic. But they were able to get that done, and it's literally separated by one slide. Look at that. That is crazy. Okay. They're focusing on affordability and online transaction. And this is a little dishonest.
These are always, this is probably the most dishonesty I see is the competition slide. I do see like rank disregard for actually investigating competition and taking competition. Usually it's portrayed as if there's no competition.
Yeah.
And there's always competition. People are always doing the same thing you're going to do in some other way. That's competition.
I love that they decided to go affordable. That makes sense. If you're doing a diagram like this, affordable makes complete sense. But online transaction versus offline transaction, they even have bedandbreakfast.com, and they're trying to say it's an offline transaction.
Yeah,
so
come on, buddy.
This slide, I think, is incredibly dishonest, and if I was an investor, it would turn me off that they weren't being honest with me. Okay.
VRBO was directly in the competition.
Yes. Competitive advantages. First to market, I believe that. Host incentive, I can believe that. List once, that's a big feature. So think about that, right? Craigslist requires you to post every single
Oh,
time you want an
Craigslist was a
interaction.
beating of epic proportions, and everybody knows it who's ever used it.
But that pain point of having to continually relist or repost, that's an interesting thing, because if I had sat here with you and we didn't have this deck, I'll bet we could not have come up with that as a pain point if we were trying to think
You'd
of
have to
all the
be
reasons.
actively a user of Craigslist to get that one.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why people would come over from Craigslist to Airbnb. Ease of use.
We used to do job ads there a long time ago.
Yeah.
In the mid-2000s, and it was the same problem for us. Do you know that guy, Craig?
No, I don't know.
Good. I don't
Greg.
want to hear him. I don't want him to find out.
It's one of the most profitable businesses, though. I was reading an article about how like they had like 5 employees and they were making like 40 million a year in revenues. Insane. Okay, profiles. I believe in that. Design and brand. I believe in that. I think that this is a good slide. Team.
All right. Joe is the UI and PR person. Looks like he's got some serious cred in design and UI, and yeah, I like that guy.
What I like to see here is that there's a mix, right? We got somebody that understands user interface, and based on the way this deck is laid out, they were talking about pain points that people had with other sites. That shows me that it's someone who understands user experience. I see that. We also have a developer. That's good for the mix. And you have the person that's in charge of business development. I guess what I would immediately go to is I would be like, okay, well, how strong is the business person? Because the platform is clearly working. When they say they're going to make partnerships with these sites like Orbitz, this is the person that is probably going to drive it, Brian Chesky. So yeah, I think that this is a good mix. Let's talk about the team slide though, right? Should you have every team member? Because at this point, you know, you got to think that Airbnb probably had 30 or 40 team members. How many team members do you want to see on the slide?
I think this is a primitive Airbnb, and this was the team. And I'm just telling you, based on the fact there was a misspelling at the beginning,
Yeah.
this is the very, very beginning of Airbnb.
Yes.
And these 3 guys plus this one advisor was it. And that's what I think. I'm just judging by my looking at a lot of decks. But you can see this developer had worked at Microsoft, a couple of other companies, and was a graduate of computer science from Harvard.
Big.
Now, not everybody has that guy, that credibility on their
Nope.
team.
What I also like about this is it's not titles, it's roles.
Yep.
Right? Like, I'm in charge of the user interface. I'm in charge of business development. I'm in charge. When you're an early stage startup, everyone has to wear a lot of hats. So just saying like, I'm the chief this. You're the chief of what? You're your chief with no Indians. But I like that they've clearly laid out the work that each of them are going to be doing. I think that's super communicative.
I agree with that. Yep.
Right. Press. I think we don't care. Are you ever going to care about a press slide?
Yeah, I mean, they had a guy who they were crediting with PR, so he's doing his job.
Okay. I would look at this personally, and I would think this is too easy to fake. It's way too easy to like submit your own press release, get on a Business Insider list, or just literally fabricate it. What I would like to see is like social proof or social evidence. I think this is also a function of its time. I think 10 or 12 years ago, press really mattered. Whereas now I'd like to see what kind of engagement did you get on an ad or a video or a post? Like, did you get 40,000 likes and that was organic? That's something that means a lot to me. I think that probably replaces the modern day press slide. This is wonderful. I love user testimonials. Yup,
Air Bed and Breakfast, freaking rocks.
I like that.
Joe Sue, F. Let's find him now and confirm his opinion.
I like this second one. I found something in my price range that's what enabled me to come to the conference, right? When you have hotels are so fixed price, and that industry is so kind of like trodden. But this guy is saying because there was a new price range, I was able to attend a conference I wouldn't have been able to. So that's where you have kind of like over-fixed, you know how fixed variable pricing where it's like, well, now there's a whole new demographic that might buy tickets to this event that could become a partner that could then promote Airbnb. Because when I read that, my head's turning and I'm going, oh, well, now you could go to the conference and be like, hey, what if we could improve your attendance by 10%? Message everyone and tell them there's this affordable Airbnb option that's cheaper than hotels.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
And a lot of our founders are building something that's like a marketplace.
Yep.
And for it to be valuable, you have to have people on the demand side and you have to have people on the supply side.
Yep.
And if you have too much of either one, it's totally screwed up user experience and everyone comes away unhappy.
Yep.
So I'm always looking at that and asking founders where they're conceiving of marketplaces is how are you going to activate both sides of the equation? And that's what I'm really interested in. And that's what I would ask these guys if they were pitching to me.
And they've got one of the hosts.
How are you going to get more Emilys? Because you got 3 to 1 over here. 3 people that want to use it and 1 that has one to be used.
Yep. They got both sides of the marketplace. The ask. We're looking for 12 months financing to reach 80,000 transactions. They're looking for a $500,000 angel. Oh, man, can you?
But let's back up and talk about what they did. So clearly, I can tell they had their own primitive product, and this one developer fellow, he built it. And let's say if they're trying to get to 80,000, they probably had 10,000 already.
Yeah.
Maybe. And so they had a healthy activity going. And now they're taking that proven experience, customer validated experience, supply and demand side, active on the platform. Now they're raising. Too many folks try to raise before they have a product.
I wish I'd put 500,000 into this round. That would be nice.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Okay, so where do you think this deck ranks on our proprietary CodeLaunch deck ranking system?
It's tough ranking this because we know how it ends. We know that Airbnb becomes a multi-billion-dollar company. It changes the world. That being said, I think this deck was good, but not great. I think that there was room for improvement, so I'm going to rank the original Airbnb deck a 7 out of 10, typo included.
I was thinking almost an 8 because of its authenticity and its simplicity, but the misspelling made it a 7. So I too am at 7. 7 it is.
7 for Airbnb. Don't forget to send us your decks if you want us to do a review. Hit us up at CodeLaunch.com. Jason, take us out.
We code, you launch. That's what we do at CodeLaunch, where we build products for founders for free.